Hi, Craig.
Hi, Sabine.
A long time no see.
Yes, it's been a couple of weeks, I think, since we met in Melbourne.
Yes, we met actually at Kevin's and Kate's. It was a really great meeting, and Kate got you to do the meeting, and you were really fantastic. And my friends are on to me. They want to. I said, well, Craig doesn't do the meetings because I presume, as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't actually see himself as a teacher having students. But I said we did a couple of recordings, so they looked you up, and I promised to do some more, and you said yes to it.
As you say, like I don't view myself as being a teacher or having students. I actually don't want to be in that position. Yeah. Because as I mentioned at that meeting that Kate and Kevin put on,
yeah,
was that you find yourself changing direction.
Mm.
You might be talking about what you see 1 month, and then the next month something different will be happening, and you got to be able to sort of communicate something to people that's a degree of consistency. I know when people are seeking something, they want consistency of message, but consistency is kind of not something I can give, apart from the consistency of there's no guarantee that anything's going to be solid or you're going to stand by something that you said earlier, simply because you're seeing something different now. What's true to you one day might be found to be seen to be not true to you the next, simply because it was only a pointer that was being used.
So in that sort of almost inconsistency or passing, how you see or project things, it basically doesn't it mean it's kind of not true in a way, because what if it passes, if you can't get hold of it,
yeah,
seems not real in a way.
Well, that's right. It isn't, because basically what we're engaged in here is an illusory, transient world where you are more solid and real than the world is, or more solid and real than anything that you see.
Yeah.
So even to start speaking is to conceptualize something.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start conceptualizing, you're moving a step away from that which is preconceptual. And so all your concepts can do is simply point to something which is preconceptual and can't be spoken about. So anything that can be spoken about can easily be negated by the speaker speaking it. As I said in that meeting, I spoke about the netty stuff, not this, not this, with regards to looking for who or what you are. You basically find out what you're not, and then you'll come to see what you are. But that itself is only a truth at a particular level of your seeking, because that will implode on itself eventually till you get to the point where, how can you say you're not something? You're not something that appears, because everything's appearing within you.
Yeah.
So the whole thing just collapses in on itself. So there's nothing you can actually hold to with regards to being able to communicate something about that which is unspeakable, which is what you are. You are always imperceptible and unknowable. And that's about the only consistent thing I can say, I guess, is that you're completely imperceptible and unknowable. Yeah.
What you said, actually, I can't repeat it, but you said something really good in that meeting at Kate's and Kevin's about, to start with, maybe, upon your recognition of your true nature, you're very excited about it, and you think it's something special, and then later it changes. You did not say these words, but it was really kind of resonated here, because this is how I've seen it myself. you know, you feel like sharing it with the world, and you know, you've got something special. And then it comes to the fact, at the end of the day, you said actually something, you go around it seemingly to come back to where you started from, meaning, but you haven't moved.
Yeah, you haven't moved.
Yeah.
You know, like as the saying we've heard, you know, you in the beginning, before so-called enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water.
Yeah.
Then after so-called enlightened wood, you're chopping wood and carrying water again. And there's another one, I think it might be from some Zen teaching somewhere, that talks about, you know, when I became enlightened, I looked at the mountains disappeared, but then afterwards the mountains came back again. And it's about that thing about everything returns back to normalcy.
Yeah.
Because to use the words awakening and enlightenment isn't talking about an altered state of consciousness. It's talking about getting away from altered states of consciousness back to just normalcy. You know, back to, you know, no longer seeking so-called spiritual experiences, or you know, trippy head trips where you have some sort of experience and can see things. In the beginning, you might see marvelous things, but it's been my understanding, because I've seen some, you know, marvelous things as well in my journey, I guess, coming to kind of where I am now. And I'm of the opinion that those things were designed simply just to help my mind just open up, and let go of things.
Yes.
So as I could move forwards.
Yeah.
So-called move forward, but these are all just descriptors, because you're not actually going anywhere. And where everything is kind of pointing to, with all the stories that we talk about, all the conversations that we have, is bringing us to a place at the end of all stories. Because at the end of all stories, that's kind of where you reside, but you can't be found there. You're at the end of all stories. You recognize everything is a story. It's all illusory, but there's a circular thing that goes on where you just saying the same thing over and over again, until finally, as you say, you lose a desire to even speak about it. I mean, what's the point?
Yes. Yeah.
There's no point talking about it, because what is it that thinks it's special? It's that which thinks it's obtained something, and that's an illusion, because nothing's been attained, because you've never not been whole and complete. It's only that's all that stuff's ever been. It's just an illusory thing. Even waking up is an illusion as well, because you've never been not aware of what's going on.
But at the same time, we said that there's nothing special about it, but it's a seeming paradox that it is, because people who came to see you at Kate's and Kevin's, they said there is a special energy about you, that they really felt good in your presence. So, and actually today we recall that, and someone asked me a question about, they said, oh, some people say it's about the pointers, and his insight is, he reckons it's not about the pointers, because he reckons it's about, and I mentioned to him, well, I felt energy about the words when my teacher spoke about the message. And when you speak about the message, you know, when someone who is seemingly reunited with their true nature speak about it, there is seeming energy about their words, which I do not feel, you know, when an ordinary person speaks about it, I understand, yeah, all that, but that energy is not present. They're just empty words. Like I can have my dad, he said something beautiful to me the other day. He said to me, he said, you know, because my son's written some music and stuff, and I said how he reached went over borders overseas, and my dad said to me, well, the music has no borders. And it was really beautiful to hear that, like, music has no borders. It's, you know, we all know this innately, every single one of us, because we are all that already. It's just that they say, yeah, and you're not special, but you are in a way. So can you touch base on that? You seem a bit blurry. I don't know what happened to your picture, but yeah.
Oh, I don't know what's happening there.
It's energy. We talked.
Yeah. I can kind of say a couple of things about that.
Yeah.
I think I posted something on Instagram the other day where, you know, like, I see so many synchronicities. What I would classify as a synchronicity in a day. Like even that conversation we had at the start of this meeting where you were looking at the virtual background, and then I start talking about the green screen without any prompts, all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah. They're kind of what's called a synchronicity.
Yes.
Or a you know, it's a coming together of a convergence of events.
Yes.
Right, which give the appearance of a synchronicity happening, and it is a synchronicity occurring, because there's only the one consciousness, and through the many bodies presenting itself, right?
Yeah.
But synchronicities can be something which can also be a snare to individuals who are looking for synchronicities as evidence that they're getting somewhere in their life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The synchronicity of happening can be like a drug that people can become hooked on. That because they're seeing synchronicities occurring, it means that they're developing spiritually and they're getting somewhere special.
Yes, advanced spiritual.
Yeah. So for me, like, I see synchronicities happening all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, in some ways, it gets bothersome. Because it's something that you kind of got to recognize that it's nothing special. It's just something that's occurring. And as I posted on my Instagram post, was that it's kind of helpful if you view the miraculous as something that's just normal. It's just normal. It doesn't have to have any particular emphasis placed upon it.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, it's better to, you know, you might mentally acknowledge it quickly, but don't give it any more than that.
Don't.
You just move on, because if you just give it a slight acknowledgement that you're aware that it's happening, so you don't do any more than that, then you just move on, then it's more likely to start happening again more often. But if you're sort of hanging on it, you see it coming along, then you do this whole wow, this is really happening thing. Then it starts becoming something. So that sort of stuff is one response to that thing about it. And another one is the wind. To use nature, like wind will move a tree, but the wind isn't necessarily aware that it's wind, you know, or something that's happening isn't necessarily aware of that, you know. Like I know that there appears to be this massive gulf between recognition and non-recognition of what you are, for some reason, right? And there appears to be this big divide between something, but those who have been fortunate enough to sort of have the experience of having that gulf collapse, or to go through the gateless gate, know that there is no gulf, and that there is no gateless gate. There's nothing. There's no divide. But that's easily spoken from the position of, that's your experience, right? But for the other person, they can only look on at people who have crossed over as being somehow super special and experiencing something, regardless of what the people who might have crossed over say about it. You know, nothing special happened at all, because you are completely normal and totally ordinary. And that's part of the beauty, I think, in the and I mentioned this to one of the guys down at that meeting, was that one of them expressed that they were surprised at how ordinary a life I live, given some of the things that I can talk about sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like I take my kids to see movies.
Yeah.
You know, some of them might have violent happenings in them, might play Xbox games. I'm just a normal fella who's working, doing normal life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a married relationship. I've got children. I maintain a job. I go about my business, and yet I'm still sort of able to engage in all this stuff the same as anybody else. I don't do any formal meditation practices. I don't attend meetings. I don't, because these things are not necessary in order to sort of, you know, be who you are. And I think as I mentioned in that meeting, there was a book I read, or a Gita I read, called the Bhagavad Gita, and the person that wrote that, or dictated, or however they did it back in those days, wanted to do it in a way which proved that he could live a normal life. You know, get married, have a job, eat meat, do whatever, and still maintain connection to himself. Yeah. Because the religious practice of the day was that you had to restrain yourself from certain things. You couldn't just be someone who was just living a life same as everybody else. And the opposite is the truth, is that you can, and it's actually more beneficial if you in fact are.
Yeah.
You know, it's better for you to forget about everything and to throw it all out, because as I said, you'll be pleasantly surprised to discover that the more you throw stuff away related to who you are, the more you'll see yourself coming through in everything. Everything will continue to basically open yourself up to yourself. It's inescapable. You are inescapable. You know, you can't escape yourself because you're always there.
Yeah, yeah. I actually, yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I feel like when I left the short, whatever, spiritual life, whatever it was, call it, it kind of, it was amazed. I was amazed, you know, how much I enjoyed my own presence, stillness, silence, just sitting, literally doing nothing, or just chilling with myself, dancing with myself, going to work, going out when I want to, coming back when I want to. And I find, like, as much as I love people's company, you know, my own presence is irreplaceable, and I can drop everyone else's company, but I cannot, you know, drop my own. They're just, but what you're saying just now, it's just so spot on, you know. But I find that most spiritual seekers do not hear it, because they strongly believe there is something in spiritual circles, hanging around the circles. What I believe is that you know, they trick themselves. And yeah, so basically they trick themselves, and they expecting to get something somewhere, in something special. And as you say, synchronicity that happened here spontaneously, when I was silently looking for the background, and you came and gave me an answer. And for me, it was completely normal. The way we had our conversation, it was like totally normal. Like, you were not surprised, I wasn't surprised. It was like, so what, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's kind of, it's you lighting your own path. You know, it's you providing yourself your own answers. It's you drinking from your own well, regardless of what appears in front of you to give you those answers, so-called. It's always just you.
Yeah.
And, you know, that which the answer comes through, apparently, can't actually claim any ownership of that. You know, it can't, you know, I don't have the capacity to read minds or astro travel or any of that sort of stuff, but you know, I know enough to know that life happens, and all we are is the conduits of it occurring. And if we just take our hands off, everything works together perfectly. We can all live harmoniously together and provide each appearance of the individuality can satisfy the other. simply by, and whatever it is, that whatever the appearance is, you know, whether it's a polite appearance or an impolite appearance, you know, it makes no difference. Yesma just stuck her head in the door.
She should have come in and say hello.
She's gone. Hey, Yesma, want to come and say hello? Here she comes.
Hello, Sabine.
I miss you. I have to get you on once. I'll have to get you on this once. I want to have a chat with you too.
Oh, next time, yeah, no problem.
Time. You go.
Continue.
See ya.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I need the light.
See, she believes you don't need the lights. She reckons you are your own lights.
Yeah, I can just shine myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually said to you today, let's make it a bit different.
Yep.
What actually prompted me to say that was I read a bit of a book of Richard Sylvester. I normally don't read books, but I actually started and I quite enjoy it. That's probably my first one I'm reading. But because it's different, it talks about Seeker's Confession, Confession of a Seeker. And he talks of stories in there.
Yeah.
He mentioned basically his 30 years of seeking, and it's quite funny because he's a really funny guy. But see, that's his like 5th book. But I said to him, you know, I don't really read books much. I can't, non-duality books, I just can't read them. And it's just, but apart from I am that, like, and even that is gone, you know. But yeah, that was quite interesting because I thought, you know, I don't want to deny life. There is a story, right? Real and unreal. I do exist, right? As you tend to say this also. Like, who is that? Call it sense of presence, whatever this is called, give it any label. This sense of presence enjoys having a cup of coffee. As you said, you do stuff. People were asking me, what's Craig doing? Like he's a special guy in a way, but he's like, he lives such an ordinary life, you know. And I find, you know, if he didn't have feelings, emotions, and if he didn't enjoy life, what's the point in being in this body, you know, if you didn't enjoy it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, you know, and you know, if you're not enjoying life, then you're basically not enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you're not as you say, you're comfortable in your own skin, you enjoy your own presence. And if that's not happening for you, then there's some story going on that's preventing that enjoyment from being fully experienced. You know, and that story might be there for a while, so eventually you can enjoy life.
Yes.
You know, sometimes the rough roads make the smooth roads more appreciated. But you know, both are just part of the, I guess, this dream life that we're having here at the moment. We have rough roads, we have smooth roads, but both of them are transitional, and we can't hold to always having, you know, a totally blissed out experience all the time, because that's the addictive side of things.
Yes. With
the seeking, like one of the women there at the meeting were talking about this this meditation type, Vipassana, I think it's called, and a lot of and I asked, why would you want the experience? You know, why do you want the experience of whatever it is that you're experiencing in the meditation? It's about questioning yourself as to why you want that to happen. You know, why do I want this experience? What do I think I'm lacking that I need to have this in order to, you know, be somewhere or to, you know, convince myself that I'm whole and complete. And sometimes we think we get an experience that can help us do that. And one of the other women that came down, I think Margaret, I think, who came down with you, she asked, if I can remember correctly, because I was speaking about what can you do to help you get there? And I said, well, honesty with yourself was something that I mentioned. And she asked a good question, you know, like, you know, be true, you know, and she said, what is the truth? Right? And I was thinking about that after I'd left. I thought it was a good question, because basically the answer is you are the truth. Now, there isn't a truth. It's you who's the truth. There is no string of words or sentences that can be put together that you can present as being, this is the truth, and this is something that you hold on to. It's purely just coming to a state of recognizing that you are the truth and the way and the life. It's you that's the truth. But you're always imperceptible. So it's something that you'll never actually know, and being able to be comfortable with that as to, it really doesn't matter. There is it's the mind that seeks after enlightenment. It's the mind that seeks after security and peace of mind. It's the mind that seeks peace of mind. Right? And there's nothing to go looking for. It really doesn't matter. And that's, but with the ordinary life I lead, I can very easily just disappear, into the crowd, so to speak, and it doesn't matter. It's become one of the invisible ones. It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter, because there's no need. There's no need to go anywhere or to be in anything, to be part of anything or anything like that. Like I enjoy the exchanges I have with people and all the rest of it, but it's not something I need in order to feel whole and complete in myself. But part of you, and that's where we. I don't know if we're going to get into it in this meeting or not. We talked about having all three eyes open. What we call the three eyes. You've got the third eye that sees through the illusions, and most of the time when we're living in duality, the third eye is closed and the two eyes are open. This is from a Hindu perspective, with the eye of Shiva, where the two eyes only see duality. They see left and right, up and down, good and bad, light and dark, male and female, all this sort of stuff. They see the duality of life, and they see it as being real. That's the absolute. These are the truths that your two eyes are showing you, right? But when the third eye opens, it sees straight through all of that, cuts through it all immediately. So that world is immediately obliterated. The reality of that world is just destroyed when the third eye opens, and that's what it talks about. But what happens in the non-duality circles, I notice, is that the third eye might open, but then the other two close. So people are just walking around with a one-eyed perspective on life, and they're the ones that walk around. I think you call them the Advaita police, or the non-duality police. They're the ones that will be correcting your grammar, making sure you're saying things correctly, asking you questions like, who is saying this, and then you can't. But you can see it's coming from a place where you can't actually answer the question, because if you answer the question, it's going to be reinforcing in their head that there's still an identity there saying something. So it's a bit of a catch-22 scenario that goes on, because they've got this third eye is open, but instead of having three eyes open, they've only got one eye open. So they're one-eyed. So they have a one-eyed perception of life.
This one. Well said. Actually, I tend to agree with that. And when I went as a person, actually, to my first meeting, and I was asked, but I spoke to someone else, asked a question, and one of these, I call them non-dual parrots. And one of the parrots, they said, well, ask yourself, who is asking the question? I'm like, and I felt like literally nauseous. I was like, I'm like, I'm not asking you anything. I'm asking person, who I came to see, who I paid money to see, like, shut the fuck up. Literally, like, I'm so over it. And like, what's the point of freedom? They use birth liberation and freedom. Next thing you know, you're not allowed to speak. Seriously? Yeah, but I've got more
Yeah.
freedom than her going to work and speaking in a meeting, you know, whatever. Not that like everyone loves their own voice, like
Yeah.
especially persons. So do non-duality persons. They love their own voice. You can't bloody, you know, you have to wait for them to breathe in to get a word in to say goodbye. Just like, and you said it well also. What I add to it is just they expect these non-dual. I'll call them non-dualism because every ism is whatever it is dualism. They reckon when you leave that room where they hold the meetings, you have to keep talking non-duality to live. You know, you have to use that language, and you have to live in a certain way, which is non-dual way. You know, I don't.
Yeah, which is an illusion. Doesn't actually exist.
No.
And that's the thing with it, is that that's what I was saying, was that if you have all three eyes open, there's no threat in being able to see the world as both real and unreal at the same time, because you have the capacity, because you're a multi-dimensional being, you know, that has the capacity to both experience reality and illusion simultaneously without breaking your head open. It really doesn't matter. When you've got all three eyes open, you're perfectly free to say whatever you want, because you're not going to be held prisoner by your words, because they're just words. It's like a spider can spin its web and run along it without getting caught. It doesn't matter. And we can weave webs with our words, but we know we're doing it. So, you know, I can, so when someone asks me, so who's saying this? I don't have any issue saying I'm saying it. Well, who are you? Well, it's me.
Any child can answer that, isn't it?
Yeah.
A child can say
it's so simple. But when we get held up on, you know, like the language like you talk about, you've got to be talking in this non-duality speak all the time. Yeah. Nobody in the planet's going to be able to relate to you at all.
Actually, yes. I actually said to someone the other day, I said, there was someone I couldn't interrupt literally. Like I would like go out after the meetings, and to make them shut up, like to stop talking about non-duality, I would actually get them into where the music is, like live music, and make them dance, pull them to dance, because they couldn't talk then, and non-duality, they would dance. But the moment you would leave, they would continue, or they would get make a call, wait someone to call to them to preach to them. I said, used to be a teacher. I never loved preaching. My dad was a teacher. He was teaching kids at school. He wasn't teaching me after school. So, like, not many people love preaching, you know, and teaching. And if this was about teaching, all the teachers would be recognized beings.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And it's not about behavior or anything like that.
Yeah,
it's got nothing to do with it. You know, behavior may change as the mind becomes less anxious.
Yeah,
but it's not about that. You know, you can still experience emotions, probably more deeply than what you would before, because there's no filters of control stopping those emotions from appearing.
Yeah.
You know, you're not so bound by the social restraints for maybe crying at a movie or something, or experiencing some emotion, or just speaking your mind without a filter. So the non-duality circuit, in some ways is still part of the same. It's still part of the same illusory mousetrap as everything else, really.
You did
that's what I'm saying. It's got to get the end of all stories. Non-duality as opposed to duality is just the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just setting itself up in opposition to something, thinking that by setting myself up in opposition to something, I've escaped something. No, you haven't, because the more you're opposing something, you're actually reinforcing it.
Yes, you do. It's like resistance, almost, in a way.
So you virtually everything just falls off. Every desire to self-improve or to attain something or to get some deeper knowledge, all of that just drops off eventually, and then it all just starts flowing freely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. You basically, and you said before about the mind, you said what wants peace of mind but the mind, but the mind, as Nisargadatta says, mind vibrates, so it will never, you can't shut it up like that unless you're dead or brain dead or something. Mind will keep going. Mind is mind, whatever we gave it the name mind, but the thoughts, they keep going, but you know, you just don't claim them, I presume. So it will keep going, but you know, it's kind of easier in a way, because it doesn't get you, as unless it still can happen. It can get you in if you know, if you give it a bit of an energy, but it will keep vibrating in a way.
But whatever, yeah, that's right. But whatever happens doesn't mean something's changed with regards to, you know, I've lost something, I've got to get back to something. Like every now and again, I might experience in my own personal experience, repetitious thoughts will just go on. And you're aware of it happening. There's this repetitious thing going on because you might have had a conversation with somebody or something, and it just bounces around inside your head. It doesn't mean anything. It's like it's just repetitious thoughts going on, and they generally, once you look at them, give them the space to do what they do, the energy dissipates from them.
Yes.
It's like if you try and resist the repetitious thoughts, or you try and resist something appearing, that's when it gets empowered. But if you just let it be and just let it run its course, like everything that appears will die. Everything dies. Everything that's born dies. Every thought that appears goes away.
Yeah.
Nothing ever lasts in this transitional world that we live in, this temporary thing.
So for people who have repetitive thoughts, like to say to persons who never came across this, and they came to you and asked you, what do I do with repetitive thoughts? Do you tell them you stop thinking, or you tell them you let them be, they're gonna pass? Like what would you suggest to make it probably go away? Yeah, quicker.
Well, because I work in the field of psychotherapy in some degrees, and I work with mental health people, I deal with people on a daily basis who experience what's called negative automatic thoughts.
Yes.
That's what they call them, negative automatic thoughts, or NATs, right? So sometimes I might have a group with them, and I'll talk about, you know what nits are? Nits run around on the outside of your head. So gnats, they run around on the inside of your head. And just like a nit can bite you on the outside, a gnat can bite you on the inside, right? So the gnat is a negative automatic thought. It's like just imagine it's running around in the folds of your brain, and it might bite you, and you'll experience the sting of that bite, and like it just spreads, and it'll just stay there for a little while. And so just having a conversation about what is happening will have a normalizing effect. Basically, you're normalizing it, that this is perfectly normal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with what's going on for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes with some people, that conversation of normalizing can help them get some space between what's occurring and themselves, so as they can move back to a place of being someone who's observing something that's happening rather than being completely swallowed up in what's happening, right? Now, some individuals, they might require some sort of medication to help them slow down their thought processes.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tool, whatever works. Like if you've got a broken leg, you use a cast or crutches. You know, and sometimes with people who have speedy thoughts going on, or whatever is going on for them, certain medications can help their thought processes slow down enough so as they can start hearing something that helps them to practice some cognitive thinking skills to combat what's happening for them, so as they can see their way through the murk that's going on for them. So in the end, it all comes down to a conversation about what's happening, and what strategies they can put in place to step back from what's happening and not be afraid of what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they need to use tools like or medications, as you said, you know, it's gonna help to calm them down a bit so they can. It's like the other day also someone asked me like, should I meditate? I said to them, to be honest, for recognition of your true nature, you do not need to meditate. You don't need a mantra. It can help you, you know, maybe feel better if you are good enough to sit and meditate. If you're not anxious, you know, if you're not impatient, you might sit and meditate, and it's okay. You know, it can patch you up, and you know. But I said what I said to them actually. Now what I see, I actually would recommend meditation for people who have come to certain recognition now, in a way, because I find it because of what we talked about before. They believe you have to speak non-dual language to live, and they think they're so powerful or untouchable that I can do anything I like. I can squash and kill and murder. I'm untouchable. Maybe for these people, meditation now it's a good thing. I don't know, but meditation for me, it's like everything that, you know, in a space like this, everything breathes. It's all breathing, so it's all meditating on itself, by itself. But, you know, it's, as you said before, it's not necessary before, but maybe it's a tool in a way, same as medication, same as going to gym, you know.
And that's the thing with the person you're talking about there that thinks they're all powerful and they can crush and kill and do whatever they want. They've just got the third eye open. They haven't got the other two.
Yes.
So they have a one-eye perspective on life that denies the reality of life. And the reality of life is that life is expressing itself in a multitude of ways, and that it's simultaneously real and not real, and we can experience both because we have all three eyes open, and there's no threat with that. It's you know, it's okay to use the I word. There's no, and you can, and that I word can have many ways. It can be speaking individually, or it can be speaking non-individually. It doesn't matter, because there's nothing wrong in what you're saying, because you are an individual. You are an individual appearance.
Yeah. And
that can't be denied. And even when you look at the word individual, individual is a makeup of two words, which means indivisible duality.
Yeah.
You know, so you got indivisible being the first part, and then duality being the second part, individual. So you're kind of a, you know, we're both duality and non-duality, and neither. Yeah. Because we see, we are duality, we are non-duality, and we are that which sees we are neither of those two, because we see those two as being opposed to each other. So yeah, there's a bigger view which sees non-duality and duality as just simply being the same thing. Yeah. And people stop at the non-duality aspect. If they leave the duality, they see duality, and they think by seeing duality that somehow they've escaped, when they haven't. They're still enmeshed in the illusory aspect of being opposed to something. You know, they've attained something and now they're going to maintain this position through a variety of strategies like speech or you know, attending Satsangs, making sure they associate with the right people and all that sort of stuff, so as they don't lose hold of what they've got hold of. But that's clearly just basically a fearful way to live. Yes. Instead of recognizing that you can't lose anything. There's no fear of hell. You know, there's no heaven to obtain. It's already happening.
Someone said the other day, they told me about a certain teacher who said it in video that like, be honest to yourself, see why you want recognition, because some people actually want to be a teacher, like a spiritual teacher. And he said, if you really want to be spiritual teacher, maybe see it's another ego trip, spiritual ego, which I probably have seen a lot. Like I'd say, be truthful to yourself, because you can't do damage to anyone else as much as you can do to yourself. It's probably running away from yourself. People who have never investigated their bodies, I want to teach, I want to become a teacher. Not everyone becomes a teacher. As you said before, you had no interest. You kind of become almost humble in a way. You said I could be insignificant. And I often see people in the gutter, literally drunks and all of that, and I look at their faces. Sometimes they smile back at you, and I see emptiness, and I see myself in their eyes, their reflection of that oneness or whatever, more than what I see in a room of non-duality. It's another teaching. To me, it's like a cult. It's another political party. It's unnecessary. Walk off, sit with yourself. You have guts, to do that. Don't run away from your silence. I feel like people are scared of their own silence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scared of themselves, scared of the home that is here. Yeah. So it's a bit all bit of a paradox in a way, but that's how it seems. I went there and I did this and I did that. I used the word I.
Yeah. You can say anything you want.
Yeah, you can say whatever you like. It didn't do any damage to me, because later on I realized it wasn't me taking myself to the meeting. Life did it itself. So Sabine cannot claim it. I can say I went there, and all of that.
Yeah, you're free to say and do whatever you want. But as I said in that meeting, I was down. That was the very first meeting I've ever attended. So I found it educational, actually, to see the headspace of people and where they were asking questions from, especially some of those non-dual type questions that would seek to place you in a place of catch-22, where who's saying that, or who's the one seeing this, and all the rest of it.
Yes. Yes. I see it as spiritual, like when you take too many pills and you don't need to. It's like overdosing on spirituality. That's what I said today to people. I said, if you attend too many meetings, you're gonna keep saying stupid things. So seriously, you're gonna make yourself sick.
But the thing with it too is that how do you hope to get beyond, or the people that you're sort of submitting to?
Yeah.
How can, if you're submitting to concepts that are being presented to you, how do you hope to get beyond that, unless you leave behind the masters and just move on and just trust yourself, just to guide yourself and lead yourself, because it's only ever been you all along anyway. And any masters, so-called, that appear in front of you, whoever they are simply just people that are appearing in front of you as a stepping stone to go beyond what they have said, because they've only ever spoken from their own conditioned perspective of where they were within space and time at that particular time. When it was normal behavior for people to be living the ascetic lifestyle, so-called. Well, now it's not. Now, people can live the ascetic lifestyle if they want, but that's not going to get them any further than someone that's not living an ascetic lifestyle.
Exactly.
So what's the point of doing it? What's the point of doing anything like that if it doesn't make any difference? And that was something, when I first started coming into this sort of stuff, I started thinking, oh shit, does this mean now I've got to go to some monastery, shave my head and sit there in orange, staring at a wall? And I thought, and I was actually relieved to discover that no, I didn't have to do that at all, because I was there before I do that. So why go ahead and do it? It's not necessary. It'll only be to satisfy a doctrine, an indoctrination that I've had, or a conditioning. So for me, it's been about just diving deeper into the world, or so-called the illusion, just diving deeper into it and totally embracing it without fear, tossing everything out that you think's going to sort of, you can use as a lifeline, because we know what spiritual lifelines are, a little spiritual lifeline that you can hold on to. Cut these things all off and just go for it, and just enjoy the playground that we've got here. Now, something else I said in that meeting, I think you wanted to talk about again, was the difference between like a jiva and a jhani, and
Yes.
Maya and Leela.
Yeah.
Right, in that a jiva is an individual who thinks they live inside the body, so-called. And Maya is the illusion, is the machine of the illusion. And the jiva will look at Maya and see it as being something that has to be overcome, has to be escaped from. The illusion has got to be broken through. Right? So to the jiva, the illusion is his prison, because he lives inside a body, right? And he can't do anything about that. So the jiva is a prisoner who will spend his life seeking to break through the illusion, to recognize, that I can overcome this. And so the jiva is constantly seeking to overcome everything, right?
Yeah.
The jhani is someone who's come to recognize that they're not an individual living inside the body. They know that they're not an individual at all. They've sort of, they recognize that what they are is just an expression of life happening. And that Maya, instead of Maya, for them they see Leela. So Leela, so the jhani sees Leela, and to the Leela means playground, divine playground. So the jhani has the capacity to turn Maya into Leela.
Yeah.
So Maya becomes the prison, becomes the playground. The illusion becomes the playground, and that's the recognition that everything that's happening here in life, you can completely embrace it wholeheartedly without fear. Live whatever presentation you want to live. You can be a full-blown vegan, or you can be a full-blown meat eater. It makes no difference to anything. It's to be embraced fully, wholly, completely. Nothing's any better than anything else. So to the jhani, life has become his playground, and they just play and live their life and just have fun, basically. So like a spider can spin a web, the jhani is not caught in his words. So the jhani might even appear to the jiva as being someone who's still bound by duality, right?
Yeah.
The jhani may appear to the jiva as someone who's still bound by duality because of the language they speak and the actions that they engage in. So the jiva won't be able to see the jhani. They won't notice the jhani, because the jhani might not necessarily appear to the jiva in the form that they want them to appear. They'll be unrecognizable because they're engaging in behavior that the jiva would judge as being not appropriate to get them liberation. Or the jhani might say things that are sort of not appropriate for the jiva to be practicing. So the jhani might completely say, don't bother about meditating. Don't forget that. Meditation is the most grievous sin you can do, right? Because you're engaging in meditation, you're denying yourself completely. The more you do meditation, the more you deny your own existence. So there's that sort of stuff. So we don't necessarily recognize what appears in front of us sometimes simply because we can't see them. They do become invisible. And we can live our lives invisibly if we want to. It's only we appear, we use language to speak, and then we can disappear. So that's the power of a jhani. They can do that.
So basically, they can use language, or they can disappear. They don't have to disappear. They can just play or be silent.
They can play the game. They can be completely dualistic. The ocean is free to be a wave.
Yes.
The ocean can be a wave completely. And other waves might be upset about that. but the ocean is just being a wave, and he's free to be the wave.
Yeah.
And it's this thing about, and you can actually practice that. You can practice being an individual and not being an individual. You can move in and out.
Mm.
You're not bound to individuality, and you're not bound to non-individuality. You're not bound to beingness. Now, this thing, loving to be, well, also love not to be. No, it doesn't matter. love to be, love not to be, who cares?
Don't go there.
Yeah.
Went through all of this, seen all of that. Yeah, it's just so funny, you know, when if you make it to talk about it. It's good.
Got to be let go of, because the teachings don't actually do you any benefit once they've done the job. They have no benefit to you. So you might use a rabbit trap to catch a rabbit, but after you've caught the rabbit, you throw the trap away and just eat the rabbit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
yes. Oh, well said. Well said.
And it's kind of like that with the so what I did was I laid something out, and then I said, well, that's what I've just spoken to you is completely untrue.
Yeah.
Now, for me, while I was doing that, I knew I was telling people an untruth all the way along.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But then eventually, but I knew for them it was a truth. So I'm aware that I'm speaking an untruth to try and get someone to a particular place where they too themselves can see it. But there's a shock aspect of having something presented to them and recognizing and pulled out from underneath them that what I've just said to you now is completely false.
Yes.
The whole thing. And it's to get you over to this place.
Yeah. Because whatever we say, it's not, because the word is not it. Like fire can't burn your tongue. Yeah.
No, but the words, but that's where it's important. For myself, when I was there, was to see the different head spaces in people that you needed to, you needed to find out where they were at, so you could respond to them.
Yeah.
For something that they could hear.
Yeah. Exactly. And you will see when you speak to them, you know where they're at. If you hear their response, you might.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We are all very different, and there is not one whatever size fits all.
No, absolutely not.
Nothing like that. I've actually watched a video the other day of Richard again. Sylvester, another two guys like Tim Freak, and the third guy he mentioned how he came to recognition with John Wheeler, and he said he was so happy and excited about that he started actually sending the CDs of John Wheeler to everyone he knew. He started posting them out, and people said to him like, well, what are you doing? Like, what is that crap you're sending me? I'm not interested. Then it hit him like not everyone was seeing it from the same perspective. Not everyone's going to resonate, from the same. I remember it reminded me that I did the same actually. I was so excited and high on message that I went around I did the posters and I put them all around town and organic shops to tell everyone about my teacher, thinking he's very special, and I had something special that no one else had. And my teacher was very special. He didn't bring anyone in as much. Then I started recording afterwards, trying to share the message. But then I thought I realized that was all bullshit. And how actually people are going to watch, that's an additional clutter on them, additional attachment or hook or clinging onto another teacher. When I went onto Facebook and because of my teacher, I opened up a Facebook and I saw all these people getting just another spiritual teacher on top of the one they already had. They just add to their collection, same as collecting the books, and
they collect them
and throw it away. You know, it just it doesn't help much, and we are all at a different stage at a certain time, and and it's not the same scenario. And what I can almost say for certain. When the readiness is, anything can be your teacher or guru, even a falling leaf,
Absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah, when the readiness is there, when the life really corners you, like the way I was against that anti-spirituality. I hated it. Anti-meditation, you know,
Yeah.
or anti all of that, like totally. And I am to today. That hasn't changed. It's even, I'm more convinced it's a load of crap. And but I've seen really bullshit, and I'm grateful to life. And I learned from a bad stuff when I was down. I found when I was really down, I was learning most, not when I was up and okay. Yeah. That's what I find.
Well, sometimes these a lot of these experiences like vaccinate you for future certain occurrences appearing, because you won't fall into the same old sort of traps. Because we do learn and gain wisdom from the experiences that we have in life. And things we sort of learn to recognize, and the thing of come to recognize that it's all about you. You don't it's perfectly okay for you just to learn from yourself, guide yourself, draw from your own well. All that sort of stuff is it's great. It's we can rest assured in that, and it's okay. Everything's okay. There's nothing there's nothing untoward happening. Everything, and even if it is untoward, then that's part of it as well. There's nothing. It's because it's all just a set of experiences that are happening, and they'll come and go.
I find that once you help yourself, then you can help others or the world. It's something similar that what Ramana said. He said that that's your biggest whatever contribution to this world, to come to recognition.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because then you become like the calming influence.
Yes.
As I quote sometimes with my clients, when Nelson Mandela, when he got out of jail, he said that when we ourselves are set free from fear, those around us are automatically liberated.
Yes.
And that's talking about something that's beyond words. That's talking about just the natural authority of presence that you have. Because you do have an authority of presence, and you can only. And I say this to some of the clinicians that I work with, because I work with psychologists and social workers and whoever, and I say to them that you can only take a client as far as you yourself have gone. If you yourself have not dealt with your own inner demons with regards to your thought processes and all that, then how can you possibly hope to lead a client down a pathway to their mental liberation? You can't. And sometimes I see clients getting well in spite of the clinicians that they're working with, because some of the clinicians, pretty much it's the clients who are doing the work on them. The clients are helping them, and they don't know that. The clinicians don't recognize that that's what's actually happening. Is that their clients in front of them, presenting them with something that they themselves now are being exposed to, and they've got to engage in some of their own reflective practices to sort of work their way through whatever's happening for them.
This is well said. So basically, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing to do.
There's nothing right either.
There's nothing right or left.
It's right and wrong are just mental constructs. And so there's nothing right, there's nothing wrong, and there's nothing right. There's nothing to do. I had someone send me a text the other day, and they were saying, "Oh, I'm confused. The person that they are, sort of," and they named themselves. They've got to do some spiritual surgery on themselves. And but you said that there's no doer and there's nothing to do. And I said, well, there isn't. But if you believe there's a doer, then there will be. As long as you think there's a doer, there's going to be a doer there, and the doer is going to keep doing until they recognize that there's nothing to do. The doer will dig just like it's a seeking energy. Seeking is a word also that's kind of a bit loaded in some sense. It's more of a it's an energetic source that's kind of just birthing itself out. It's a birthing process, and it's something that's just occurring, and it seems to appear in certain individuals and not in others, where there's this birthing forth of consciousness as it expands beyond the limits of the individualized consciousness and the body. It just grows outside of that, and it will keep happening until it stops, until it will, you know, the consciousness, will shed this body of individuated consciousness. It'll just shed it, and then suddenly you'll start recognizing that everything I thought was true isn't true anymore. And it appears in different ways. Like for me, when it started occurring, like I had a few wham bams of the headspace earlier on when I was like 20, that just shook me. But when it became more stabilized and more solid, I noticed things were happening. Like I noticed certain passions or certain desires that I had to do things were just no longer there anymore. I wasn't, you know, I was an activist type person, and then all of that just fell away. I could no longer justify the energy input into trying to save something or change the world, or to correct everybody who was wrong. But all that just fell away in the recognition that that was my own mental construct happening there. Sure enough, it might have been getting supported by other people who had the same sort of conditioning. Because like minds will get together, right, and support themselves. So all of that fell away for me, and then I recognized, you know, I don't need to do anything, because there's nothing wrong with the world. It's nothing that needs to be fixed. There's nothing broken. There's appearances going on, but
So these fires in Australia, what was your intake on that? Did you feel sad a bit, or how did it impact?
Well, I was pretty thankful, I guess, that I was in Tasmania at the time, and it was cooler weather, because I was looking forward to experiencing some coldness. So I enjoyed that. The fires, I thought, well, I was surprised at how many fires there were. I saw a lot of blame being placed on people. You know, things could have been responded to faster. You know, people were speaking those words. I saw half of Kangaroo Island in South Australia being burnt, and there was speaking of 50,000 koalas being burnt to death by that. But I also remember that koalas were an issue in Kangaroo Island, that the population was too much, and that the government was doing all it could to cull the koalas.
I remember that.
And that was something beforehand, and there was an uproar about that. Culling the koalas, because they wanted to transport the koalas from Kangaroo Island to somewhere else. And then there's this natural event that occurs to burn them. But then there's the global warming presentation that talks about, well, it's not really a natural event because it's man-caused, because of global warming and all this sort of stuff. I see these things occurring, and I pretty much don't have any judgment about it. I just kind of am watching it happening, and I'm not for or against it. Like, you know, I can. It's not really a not caring, but it's kind of a viewing that's not taking a side with what I'm seeing happening. I can talk about what I see happening, but I'm not standing on the side of, oh, this is terrible, we got to do what we can to stop the global warming. You know, man has caused this. They killed all these koalas, and we got to go out there and protest and do with it. That's not where I am, but there are people who are there, and that's okay. You know, like when I was driving up the freeway yesterday, there were some people there holding a big sign out on the freeway that said "Climate emergency ahead." You know, act now, prevent that future. It's an attention-raising thing. to something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I personally don't feel motivated to act now, because what can I do?
What can I do?
Yeah, like it's sort of obviously if I'm in an environment where a fire is happening, I'll do what I can to help my neighbours. You respond to what's in front of you at the time, but you know, I'm not going to go and join a Greenpeace movement or something like that. But other people might feel motivated to do that.
Exactly.
And that's okay. And my own lack of sort of application to that, or lack of caring, it could be viewed as, is not an indicator of the rights or wrongs of my own stance.
Yeah.
Because it's just simply what's happening here for me. And I don't say that everybody should feel this way, because not everybody else feel this way.
Yeah.
You know, someone wants to, you know, go and save all the koalas, then they can go and save all the koalas. There's no right or wrong in any of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So, but it's how we, it's how we judge that. You know, like me saying this now is obviously might be controversial for some people, because they might be having certain ways of thinking about things.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's okay for them to have those ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's no lake of fire that I'm going to be immersed in after I'm dead. I'm dead. So
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
but we want to sort of put, you know, onto people. If we're attached to a cause or something, or if we're attached to rights and wrongs in life, then we'll want to put onto someone who's claiming or asserting a degree of spirituality about them, a degree of goodness to them, because that's our conditioning. We'll say that they're good people because they're talking spiritual words, so they must be good people, and good people behave a certain way. Good people do this, they don't do that, right?
Yeah.
But I don't come at it from that level, because there are no good people, and there are no bad.
And they're not bad people.
Yeah, there are no good people.
Yeah.
And there are no bad people. These things are mental constructs.
Yeah. True.
And because we've designed that
Yes.
we call what's better for society good, and what's not better for societal cohesion bad. But really, they're just mental constructs. You know, who told you they were good or bad? You know, where did that teaching come? That's a teaching. That's something that's been believed. That someone told us that somewhere along the line, and we've been raised with that, with our own sort of collective social consciousness as to what's right and wrong, and how we're supposed to respond to things. And that, you know, to some degree, there might be a compliance with it in order to present ourselves as something, so as people can hear what we say.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like you know, I adhere to road rules, not because of any morality or goodness or badness, but because it's a more appropriate way to live. You know, it's I'll stop at red lights and go on green lights because I'm working in agreement in this society that I'm in. But me doing that doesn't make me good. Me not doing that doesn't make me bad. It's just something that's happening. So it's that sort of place. So with the bushfires, it's a definite major event that's occurring in Australia, and there's lots of things happening where, you know, a lot of people lost houses, and friends and family have died. A lot of livestock have been killed. Firemen have been killed. I thought it was a sad story about the fireman who was killed with his young children. I know what's going on in that family with their father. You know, he's dead. That's a very sad story.
Yeah.
It's a terrible tale.
Yeah.
And people will be suffering as a result of that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What can you do? It's like it really impacted us a lot, and you probably were not there. I don't know if you felt the smog and the smoke that came to the cities. It was really pretty bad. Like you just could not breathe. Like if you breathe in. There's nothing to breathe. You're suffocating. And yeah, lots of people got, like you could hear ambulance through the city non-stop. It was pretty heavy. So
I think every response you see is coming out of love. It's all love responding to what's occurring. You know, people driving ambulances and firemen and all that. You know, people getting together and praying for, you know, things to happen. All of that is coming. It's all love, sort of arising and expressing itself.
And how we drop our differences at the situations like this. I thought, you know, we all go for one thing. Let's do something together. And it's kind of really beautiful and gets us together while it lasts. Then it gets forgotten, and then people do their own bits and nasty, whatever, go their own ways, you know. But it's kind of cool, really, because that oneness is a bit felt at the situation, tragic situations like this, like koalas and whatever. When I rang like wildlife, and I got in touch with them to see if I could do anything about it. And I had to go to certain training, and they said all these people who got trained, they actually were not given any tasks. So I could probably adopt koala. To adopt koala, I have to be at home, so I have to leave work and stay with koala before it gets well and gets released in nature and things like that, you know. And what you mentioned before about good and bad people just reminded me one thing, but I also wanted to just quickly touch base before we split. It's getting too late. Yeah, I was just saying today, I said, you know, to say spiritual people are good people and non-spiritual people are bad people, it's total delusion and illusion. It's, you know, I said I love hanging out with really good people in a way. Like I just say it because I really because seeing yourself and Yasima and seeing Kevin and Kate, there is a really certain, I don't know, I can't, this indescribable feeling of goodness. Regardless, we're not talking good and bad on surface. There is evil, there is angel, nothing like that. It just, and there are people who have never looked into this stuff, who are naturally, who would give you the last bit of bread, which you have done yourself, you know, and which I felt. I just, you didn't have to say anything, you just sensed the presence. So it's just great hanging out with people, like not in spiritual communities, not in religious communities, not in, you know, it just with someone you can talk about this stuff, and someone who really walks the talk, who has all three eyes open.
Absolutely.
And you're such a gift, Craig, and and it's really, people resonate with you, and thank you for doing what you're doing, and I'm hoping to, you know, catch up with you at some stage again, and we might do it.
That'd be good.
Sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see. I just feel a bit guilty that I didn't have my camera over there to record your meeting as you were talking. I had it in my car, but I did not know.
I didn't know we didn't know it was going to happen. That was Kate. Good old Kate.
That was lovely. So very kind.
It was actually good to meet the ACIM people too.
Yes. Yeah.
And just because that's another group of people, and basically they're a Christian group, I think, and they're sort of, you know, step outside of the more sort of conservative church scene, getting into you know, Christian non-duality type perspective.
It's very similar, isn't it, in a way?
What's that?
It's very similar to non-duality, isn't it? It's very similar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's all pointing to the same sort of place.
Yes.
It's just taking a pathway that people can identify with, and walk with from within a Christian perspective. I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to see, you know, that yeah, it's heading towards the
Yeah.
same.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No.
Nothing right with it either.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you so much, and it was so good to see you again and catch up with you, and hope to see you soon. So.
No worries, Sabine.